had known Connor Hayes for 10 years. I had known Connor Hayes for 10 years. 10 years, long enough for a person to become a habit. Long enough for every boundary to blur. And long enough that you no longer notice. When you fell in love with them. My name is Oliver Grant. 20 years old. A sophomore studying communications at a university in California. And Connor has been my best friend since we were both 10. We grew up together in a small town where everything moved slowly except Connor. He was always one beat ahead of me, ran faster, laughed louder, lived more intensely, and he was the only one who could ever pull me out of my shell. Oliver, you planning to sleep there forever? I jolted awake to find Connor standing in front of my dorm bed, hair still damp, a towel loosely draped around his neck. I wasn't sleeping, I muttered, pulling the blanket up, just resting my eyes. Right? Resting your eyes while hugging your phone for an hour? I smirked. You were watching me? Connor didn't answer right away. He stepped closer and snatched the phone from my hand. Hey, scrolling through that guy's Instagram again? He frowned. Do you actually like him? I said nothing. Not because Connor was wrong, but because I didn't know how to answer. Oliver, his voice dropped. You don't have to pretend with me. I sat up, leaning my back against the wall. I just think he's fine. Connor laughed, but there was nothing warm in it. Fine? That guy doesn't even know you exist. So? I shrugged. At least he doesn't. I stopped. Doesn't he what? Connor asked, eyes fixed on mine. Doesn't he annoy me the way you do? A long silence followed. I knew I'd said too much, but I also knew Connor understood. He always did. Connor sighed, tossed my phone back, and turned toward the window. You have a date with him this week, right? He asked. Yeah. When? Friday evening. Connor gave a small nod. Okay. That was all. But somehow, it left me unsettled. What do you mean, okay? I asked. Connor shrugged. Just okay. You want to date someone, I'm not in a position to stop you. I watched him. The words sounded perfectly normal, but the way he clenched his hand, staring out the window like he was holding something back. Nothing about it was normal. Connor, I called. What? Are you okay? He turned around and gave me that familiar smile, the one he always wore when he didn't want anyone to know what he was thinking. Fine. Why wouldn't I be? I didn't answer, because I knew he was lying. We'd shared a dorm room since freshman year. At first, it was just coincidence. Then, it became a choice. Connor once said, I don't trust anyone except you. I just laughed it off at the time. I didn't think those words meant anything special. Until now. That night, when I was getting ready for bed, Connor still hadn't come back. It was rare for him to stay out this late. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling something. Restless. About an hour later, the door opened. Connor walked in, jacket slung loosely over his shoulder, a faint smell of beer on him. Where were you? I asked. Party. You didn't invite me? He smirked. You were busy thinking about your crush. I glared at him. You're drunk. Not really. Connor walked toward my bed, leaned down, hands braced on either side of me. I was pressed between him and the wall. My heart beat a little faster. Oliver, he said, voice low. Do you really want to date someone else? I swallowed. What do you mean? Connor looked at me for a long time. That gaze was unlike anything before. Not the look of a friend. Not teasing. But something deeper. Something more dangerous. Nothing, Connor said, pulling back. Forget it. He turned away and threw himself onto his bed. As if nothing had happened. But I knew. Something had changed. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Connor had looked at me. About his question. Do you really want to date someone else? It sounded like a perfectly ordinary question. But it made me unable to breathe. The next morning, Connor was up earlier than usual. When I opened my eyes, he was already dressed. Where are you going? I asked, voice still groggy. Gym. Wait for me. Don't need to. He said it quickly without looking at me. Going with a friend. I froze. Which friend? Connor opened the door. Someone who isn't you. The door closed. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. A strange feeling crept into my chest. Discomfort, emptiness, and jealousy? No, that couldn't be right. Connor was my best friend. Just my best friend. Right? I tried to convince myself it wasn't a big deal. Connor had his own friends, his own life, and Connor had every right to not need me in every moment. But when I walked into the campus cafeteria that afternoon and saw him sitting there, laughing with someone else, a tall, blonde guy, the kind of person everyone immediately felt comfortable around, that whole not a big deal collapsed entirely. Connor didn't laugh like that with other people. At least not before. Oliver. A voice pulled me out of my thoughts. It was Jake, a classmate of mine. Sit here. I nodded, pulled out a chair, but my eyes kept drifting back toward Connor. Who are you looking at? Jake asked, following my gaze. No one. Sure, no one you're staring at like that. Jake grinned. That's Connor, right? I didn't answer. Jake propped his chin on his hand, watching for a moment, then nudged my shoulder. Hey. The guy sitting with Connor is Ryan. Junior basketball team. Heard he's pretty hot. I frowned slightly. Why do you know so much about him? Jake shrugged. Small school. If someone stands out, everyone knows. I didn't say anything else. But in my head, there was only one name. Ryan. That afternoon I had class that ran later than usual. When I got back to the room, Connor still wasn't there. I opened my laptop and tried to focus on homework, but my mind kept spinning. The image of Connor laughing with Ryan played on repeat. The way he tilted his head. The way he lightly touched the other guy's arm while talking. Things I thought were only for me. Around 7 in the evening, the door opened. Connor walked in holding 2 cups of coffee. For you. He set one down on my desk. I looked at the coffee, then at him. Thanks. Connor nodded, sat down on his bed, and scrolled through his phone the way he always did. Everything looked completely normal. Too normal. Who was that at lunch? I asked, keeping my voice as casual as I could. Connor didn't look up. Who? The person sitting with you in the cafeteria. Connor paused for just a second, then kept scrolling. A friend. What kind of friend? Connor sighed and put his phone down. Oliver, are you interrogating me? I'm just asking. Ryan. Happy now? I gave a small nod. Yeah. A pause. Connor looked at me, something mildly irritated in his expression. That's it? Yeah. I thought you'd ask more. I shrugged. What's there to ask? Connor let out a short, humorless laugh. I don't know. I thought you cared. Those words hit like a fist to the chest. I do care, I said quickly. Really? Connor tilted his head. Or are you just busy caring about your Friday date? I clenched my hand. Connor. What? Why are you being difficult? He stood up and walked to the window. I'm not being difficult. You're lying. Connor turned back, his gaze sharp and cold. So what do you want me to say? That I don't like you going on dates with someone else? I said nothing. Connor laughed, but this time, there was nothing happy in it. See? Sounds stupid. Doesn't he it? No. Connor stopped. It doesn't sound stupid. I repeated, quieter. Then what does it sound like? He asked. I looked at him. For a long time. Like, you don't want to lose me. The air in the room went still. Connor said nothing. Just looked at me. And this time I understood what I saw in his eyes. Not just friendship. Not ordinary jealousy. But something else entirely. Connor. I whispered. Don't, he cut in. I don't want to talk about this. But, Oliver, please. His voice. For the first time I heard something fragile in it. Don't push me. I bit my lip, then nodded. Okay. That night we didn't speak another word. Connor turned his back to me and pretended to sleep. And I lay there watching the silhouette of his back. The distance between our 2 beds was only a few feet. But it felt like it had never been wider. Friday came faster than I expected. The date, with someone I thought I liked. But standing in front of the mirror, fixing my shirt, the only person I could think about was Connor. He was sitting on his bed, watching me get ready, saying nothing, not smiling, just watching. Do I look okay? I asked, turning around. Connor gave a small nod. Fine. Just fine? I exhaled. Connor. Go, he said, cutting me off. You'll be late. I stood there for a few seconds, waiting for him to say something more, waiting for him to ask me to stay. But Connor just looked down and pretended to be absorbed in his phone. I swallowed the tightness in my throat, then turned and walked out. But as the door closed behind me, I knew something was breaking apart, and I wasn't sure whose heart it was. The date wasn't bad. If I'm being honest, it was actually pretty decent. His name was Daniel, a year ahead of me in the same department. Easy to talk to, considerate, and attentive in exactly the right way, not too close, not too distant. We sat at a small restaurant near campus and ordered burgers and fries, talking about ordinary things. Classes, the strict professors, funny stories about friends. Daniel laughed a lot. So did I. But something was off. Oliver. Daniel tilted his head. Are you okay? I snapped back. Huh? Yeah, I'm fine. You seem like you're somewhere else. I smiled weakly. Sorry. I think I'm just tired today. Daniel nodded and didn't push. A thoughtful person, a good person, and I should have been glad about that. After dinner, we walked around the campus for a while. The night was cool. A gentle wind, pale yellow streetlights stretching along the path. Daniel told me about his plans after graduation. I listened, nodded, replied here and there, but my mind still wasn't here. Oliver. I turned. Daniel was standing slightly closer. Do you want to? He asked softly. Try something? Try what? Daniel smiled gently, then leaned in. A kiss. Light, slow, careful. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. My body stayed still. My heart felt nothing. No flutter, no quickened pulse, nothing at all. And in that moment, I thought only of one person. Connor. I stepped back and drew a breath. I'm sorry. Daniel looked at me, a little surprised. I'm not sure. He was quiet for a few seconds, then nodded. It's okay. A very mature response. Is it someone else? Daniel asked. I didn't answer right away, but my silence said everything. Daniel smiled this time with a trace of sadness. Then don't keep them waiting too long. I got back to the dorm faster than I expected. My heart was pounding, not because of the date, but because I knew what I had to do. When I opened the door, the light was off. Connor was lying on his bed, back turned to me, same as the night before. I stood there for a moment, then closed the door. Connor. No response. I stepped closer. Connor, I know you're not asleep. He shifted slightly, but still didn't turn around. How was the date? Connor asked, his voice flat. Doesn't matter, right? He said softly. As long as you had fun. I bit my lip. Connor, look at me. No need. Connor. I'm tired, Oliver. His voice was cold. Not the kind of cold that comes from anger, the kind that comes from giving up. I stood there, then made a decision. He kissed me. Connor went still, just for a second, but I saw it. Is that so? He said, his voice still flat, too flat, and I didn't feel anything. This time, Connor was quiet longer. I took another step forward. Connor, I think. Don't. He cut me off. But this time, his voice trembled. I don't want to hear it. But you need to. No. Connor sat up and turned to face me. His eyes were in turmoil. Oliver, please. Don't say it out loud. Why not? Because if you say it out loud, I won't be able to pretend anymore. Those words squeezed the air from my chest. Same here, I whispered. Connor looked at me, this time, without turning away, without hiding, just looking. Connor, I said one word at a time. I don't like him, right? I think I like someone else. Connor let out a short, bitter laugh. Great, so, it's you. The air stopped. Connor stopped laughing, said nothing, just stood there, as if he hadn't quite understood yet. I like you, I said again. My voice was shaking, but I didn't stop. Not the way I like a friend. Not just I don't want to lose you, but like, I want to be beside you. I want to touch you. I want to. Stop. Connor said it quietly, not as a command, as a plea. I fell silent. Connor ran a hand over his face, hard, like he was trying to stay clear-headed. Oliver. He exhaled. Do you know what you're saying? I do. No, you don't. Connor shook his head. You're just confused. Because we've been together too long. Because you're not used to me having someone else. I'm not confused. I stepped closer. Connor, I tried. I tried to like someone else. But I can't. Connor looked at me. His eyes splintering. Don't do this, he said. Don't talk like I'm your only option. You're not an option. I whispered. You're the answer. Connor closed his eyes. 1 second. 2. Then opened them. It's too late, Oliver. I froze. What do you mean? Connor didn't answer right away. He turned away. His voice dropped. I've started something with Ryan. The whole world seemed to fall away. Started. What? Connor clenched his hand. Dating. Couldn't he breathe? How long? A few days. A few days? I laughed bitter, hollow. And you didn't tell me? I was going to. After you were sure? Connor didn't deny it. Because it was the truth. I stepped back. Then one more step. The distance between us stretched again. So that's it, I said. Connor turned back. Oliver. It's fine. I smiled, but my eyes burned. You don't owe me anything. Don't say that. I mean it. I shrugged. I just realized too late that's all. Connor moved toward me. Oliver, listen. I'm tired. I turned away. Go to sleep. That night, we lay with our backs to each other again. But this time, not because we were afraid to face each other, but because there was nothing left to say. And I understood something. Not everyone who arrives first will be the one who stays, even if they've been your best friend for 10 years. The next morning, I was up earlier than usual. Not because I wanted to be, but because I couldn't sleep anymore. Connor was still lying on his bed, back to me, breathing steadily as if he slept soundly. I watched him for a long moment, then got up, changed, and left the room without a word. I started avoiding Connor. Not in a dramatic way. I just didn't know how to face him anymore. We still went to the same school, still had classes near each other, still shared mutual friends. But I always found a seat far away, always had an excuse when he asked about meals, always left before a conversation could become personal. Connor didn't try to pull me back either. That hurt more than if he had. A week passed like that, a week in which everything changed. Connor started spending more time with Ryan. I saw them together in the library, eating together, laughing together. The things that used to be mine no longer were. Oliver, are you okay? Jake was the one asking again. We were sitting on the lawn outside after class. I'm fine. You say that too much. I smiled slightly, because I really am fine. Jake looked at me for a long moment. Then why do you keep glancing at the basketball court? I stiffened. I didn't need to turn my head to know Connor was there. With Ryan. Just looking. Jake sighed. Oliver, I don't know what's going on between you and Connor, but something clearly is. I said nothing. And you're hurting yourself over it. Maybe I deserve it, I said quietly. Jake frowned. For what? For realizing too late. That afternoon I decided to go back to the room early, hoping to avoid Connor. But when I opened the door, I stopped. Connor was there. And not just him. Ryan was too. Oh, hey, Ryan said, turning to me with a friendly smile. You're Oliver, right? Connor talks about you a lot. I gave a small nod. Yeah. Connor stood beside him, silent, not introducing us further, not explaining anything, just standing there. We were about to go get food, Ryan said. Do you want to come? I looked at Connor, waiting for a glance, a slight shake of his head, any signal showing he didn't want me to come. But Connor just looked at the floor. No, I said. I'm busy. Ryan nodded. Maybe next time. They left together. The door closed. The room fell into a silence that felt almost frightening. I sat down on my bed, stared at nothing, and for the first time in many days, I cried. Not loudly, just quiet tears, falling on their own. But enough to make me understand. I had truly lost him. That night I didn't go out, didn't eat dinner, just lay there, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed a few times. Messages from Jake. I didn't reply. Around 11, the door opened. Connor walked in. Alone. I turned to face the wall and pretended to sleep. But I heard every footstep. Heard him set his things down. Heard his breathing. Grow closer. Oliver. I didn't answer. Oliver, I know you're not asleep. I clenched my hand, but stayed silent. Connor sighed. We can't keep going like this. I turned around. Then what do you want? Connor stood there, beneath the dim light, eyes exhausted, like before. I let out a small laugh. Like before? I repeated. You really think we can go back to how things were? We're friends. Not anymore. Connor went still. What do you mean? I can't be your friend. My voice trembled. Not when I feel the way I do. Connor said nothing, then stepped closer. Oliver, I don't want to lose you, but you already made your choice. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I cut him off. Connor opened his mouth, then closed it. No answer came. See, I said, smiling bitterly. Even you don't know. Connor clenched his hand. Ryan. ISNT. SNT what? Connor looked at me for a long time, then said quietly, Yes, not the one I want. My heart lurched. Then why? Connor smiled sadly. Because the one I want didn't choose me. The air in the room shattered again. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know whether to feel joy or pain. Connor. Don't, he said. I'm not saying this to change anything. Then why? Connor looked at me, eyes heavy with exhaustion. So you understand. I'm losing you too. I swallowed around the tightness in my throat. You're not losing me. Yes, I am. Connor said it with certainty. The moment you told me you liked me, I'd already lost you. Couldn't he breathe? So, what are we now? Connor didn't answer right away. He looked at me, then turned away. I don't know, an honest answer. And the most painful one. That night, we didn't turn our backs to each other. But we didn't move closer either. Just lay there, a few feet apart, looking up at the same ceiling, but in two different worlds. And for the first time, I wished I had never said anything at all. The days after that passed in a strange way. Not exactly peaceful, but no longer as tense as before, like a storm had passed through, leaving everything broken, but temporarily. Quiet. Connor and I started talking again. Short sentences. The basics. Have you eaten? Yeah. What time is class? 10. Nothing more. Nothing less. No emotion. But that forced normalcy wore me down more than any argument could. Ryan still appeared. Not often, but enough that I couldn't forget. He'd come by the room in the afternoons. Sometimes bringing food, sometimes just hanging around, sometimes staying quite a while. I always found a reason to leave whenever Ryan showed up. Not because I hated him, but because I couldn't bear to watch Connor be with someone else. One evening, as I stepped into the room, Ryan was standing very close to Connor. Too close. They were laughing. And then Ryan leaned in. I turned away before I could see the rest. Oliver. Connor called out, but I had already closed the door behind me. I wandered aimlessly around campus. The night air was cold. The wind sharp, but not as sharp as what was happening inside my chest. I didn't know what I was hoping for. That Connor wouldn't kiss Ryan? That Connor would wait for me? That everything would pause? Just because I was too late? Pathetic. Oliver. I turned. It was Daniel. He stood there, hands tucked into his jacket pockets. It's been a while. I nodded. Yeah. You okay? I smiled faintly. That question's been really popular lately. Daniel smiled back. So, has the answer changed? I was quiet, then shook my head. No. We sat down on a nearby bench. The air was calm, but not uncomfortable. Are you still thinking about him? Daniel asked. I nodded. Yeah. And he? Doesn't he belong to you? I smiled sadly. He never did. Daniel was quiet for a moment, then asked, Are you sure about that? I looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, sometimes people aren't together not because they don't belong with each other. Daniel tilted his head. But because the timing isn't right. Those words stayed with me for a long time. That evening when I got back to the room, Connor was sitting alone. Ryan wasn't there. A rare thing. Where's Ryan? I asked before I could stop myself. Connor looked up. He left. I set my bag down. Something in the air felt different. Oliver. I stopped. What? Connor stood up. We need to talk. I exhaled lightly. Again? Yeah. I turned around and leaned against the desk. Okay. Say it. Connor stepped closer. Not too close, but close enough that I felt the seriousness. I don't want to keep going like this. Neither do I. Then something has to change. I looked at him. Like what? Connor was quiet for a few seconds, then said, I'm gonna end things with Ryan. My heart pounded. Why? Connor didn't look away this time. Because I haven't been honest with him. And because Connor hesitated. I can't be with someone else when I'm still thinking about you. The air went thick. Connor. I whispered. Don't misunderstand, he said quickly. I'm not saying we're going to start something. Then what do you want? Connor looked at me more clearly than he ever had. I want to try. What? To see what we could be. Something beyond just friends. I didn't know how to breathe. After everything that happened, Connor nodded. After all of it, I let out a soft laugh. Not from sadness, but from disbelief. Connor, do you know this could ruin everything? It already has. His answer. So direct. So true. I don't want to lose you, Connor continued, but I also can't keep pretending I don't feel anything. I looked at him. My best friend. Someone I had loved for longer than I even knew. And if we fail? I asked. Connor smiled gently. Then at least we didn't miss our chance. Such a Connor answer. I drew a breath, then stepped closer. For the first time, the distance between us began to close. Okay, I said. Connor blinked. Okay. Yeah. I smiled. We try. Connor looked at me like he couldn't quite believe it. Really? Really? A pause. But not an uncomfortable one. Not a tense one. Just new. Connor moved a little closer. So, what now? I shrugged. I don't know. Connor smiled. Maybe we start with something simple? Like what? Connor looked at me. His gaze softened. Like holding hands? My heart skipped. But this time, not from pain. I held out my hand. Connor looked down at it. Then took it, just holding hands. But for us, it was an entire step forward. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like, just maybe, we weren't finished after all. That held hand lasted longer than I expected. Neither of us let go first. Neither of us said anything. We just stood there, in the middle of that small dorm room, like two people learning for the first time how to touch each other without needing a reason. It feels strange, I said softly. Connor smiled. Yeah. But not bad. I looked at our intertwined hands. Have you ever held anyone's hand like this? Connor shook his head. No. What about Ryan? Connor tightened his grip, just slightly. No. That answer was more than just an answer. Felt like a confirmation. A boundary. A choice. So, what's next? I asked. Connor shrugged. I don't know either. Maybe we just let it happen naturally? Connor nodded. Yeah. No pressure. Easy to say. But both of us knew. Nothing about crossing the line between friendship and love is ever without pressure. The days that followed were different. Not in any dramatic way. Just in small things. Very small. But enough for me to notice. Connor started sitting closer to me in class. Not touching. But the distance. A little less. In the room, he no longer turned his back when he slept. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me. Then quickly looking away. We started texting each other. Even when we were in the same room. Meaningless messages. Hungry? Yeah. Want to eat? Sure. But sometimes, the messages were anything but meaningless. Connor, you still up? Me, yeah. Connor, I've been thinking. Me, about what? Connor, about you. I read that exchange at least 10 times. But not everything was easy. One afternoon, while I was studying at the library, Jake appeared. He looked at me, then at Connor sitting a few tables away. Okay, Jake said, dropping into the seat across from me. How long are you going to hide this from me? I raised an eyebrow. Hide what? Jake smiled. Don't play dumb. I'm not blind. I sighed. Nothing clear yet, but something there. I said nothing. Jake leaned in, lowering his voice. Oliver, I just want you to be careful. What do you mean? I mean, Connor just ended things with Ryan. It wasn't really things, I corrected. Jake shrugged. Whatever it was, it just ended. And now you're jumping in. I clenched my hand. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I looked at Jake, then said slowly, we've always had something. Jake studied me for a long moment, then exhaled. I hope you're right. That evening, I told Connor about the conversation. We were sitting on my bed, a very small distance between us. Jake's not wrong, Connor said. I know. And you still want to keep going? I looked at him. Do you? Connor didn't answer right away. He reached out and lightly touched my wrist. A barely there touch, but enough to make me go still. That's my answer, Connor said. I smiled softly. Okay, I understand. A pause. Comfortable. Just. Full. Oliver, Connor said. What? He looked at me. Eyes open. No deflection. No teasing. Can I ask you something? Yeah. Connor drew a breath. Then said, do you want to try kissing me? My heart stopped for a beat. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I was scared. Scared that once we crossed this line, there'd be no going back. Connor. It's okay if you don't want to, he said quickly. No. I shook my head. It's not that I don't want to. Connor went quiet, waiting. I swallowed. I want to be sure. Sure of what? That you're not doing this. Just because you're afraid of losing me. Connor looked at me. For a long time. Oliver, he said slowly. If I was only afraid of losing you, I wouldn't have the courage to do this at all. That answer was enough. I gave a small nod. Okay. Connor leaned in, very slowly, as if giving me time to change my mind. But I didn't. The distance between us disappeared. This time I was the one who moved first. I raised my hand and touched the side of his neck. Felt warm skin, a heartbeat, quick and close. Oliver. I didn't let him finish. I kissed Connor. Nothing like the kiss with Daniel. Not gentle, not tentative, but real. So real. Connor went still for a second, then kissed me back. Everything broke open. All the years of keeping our distance. All the times I touched him and held back. All the feelings buried down. It all came rushing in at once. Connor pulled me closer. His hand gripped the fabric of my shirt, like he was afraid I'd disappear. Same with me. The kiss went on, unhurried, but unrelenting, until we both had to pull apart. To breathe, Connor pressed his forehead to mine. God. He exhaled. I laughed softly. Yeah. What did we just do? Connor asked. I don't know, I said honestly, but I don't regret it. Connor looked at me. His gaze went soft. Me either. A pause. Then Connor laughed. Okay. So there's no going back to being normal friends now. I shrugged. We were never normal. Connor nodded. True. He took my hand again. This time. More naturally. So. What are we? Connor asked. I looked at him. My best friend. The person I'd just kissed. The person I had loved. For longer than I could say. I don't know what to call it, I said. But I know one thing. What? I don't want to lose you. Connor squeezed my hand. This time. I'm not going to let you. And for the first time. We didn't just say